Hi, I'm Susan Morrison, and I'm the articles editor of The New Yorker. This is Duncan Sheik. Until a few years ago, the only real theatrical experience that Duncan Sheik had was playing the Artful Dodger in his elementary school production of Oliver. He was a singer-songwriter with 6 CDs and a hit single called Barely Breathing when he signed on to compose the music for the musical Spring Awakening. And the first time out, the show completely swept the Tony Awards. In case you haven't seen it, Spring Awakening is an adaptation of Frank Wedekinds' 1891 play about repressed German teens. And it's been credited with completely reinventing the form of the American musical. And, well, some of you know, I have the kind of kids who love to sing show tunes in the car. So I personally have Duncan Sheik to thank for the fact that, in my house, Some Enchanted Evening will now, segue directly into a tune called Totally Fucked. Or their other favorite, The Bitch of Living. But anyway, so Duncan, when you started this project, was it your intention to completely subvert the genre, or did it happen more organically than that?
Well, Stephen Sater, my writing partner, who really gets credit for the titles Totally Fucked and The Bitch of Living. It wasn't my doing. He had been a big fan of the play since he was a teenager, and he always felt like there was music in the play. Obviously it was a straight play when it was first written, but he felt like there would be a way to musicalize it that would be really powerful. And so he asked me to read the play, and I read it, and I thought it was really cool. And then I said, he said, "Would you like to do a piece of musical theater based on this play?" And initially, I was, Stephen, musical theater is really not my thing, and especially at that time. This was 1999. The things that were on Broadway, I felt strongly were not stylistically relevant to the music that the rest of the culture at large was listening to, and so it just seemed very insular to me, and so initially I was like, I don't know if this is right for me, but he said, no, let's do something that's really contemporary and really cool, and it can be indie rock. And so as I read the play, I realized that the play, it's about teen angst is really what it is, and what better form of music to express teen angst than indie rock. So it made a lot of sense on certain levels, and so yeah, the answer is yes. We did intend to really kind of break a lot of the existing rules that happen in musical theater, for better or worse, and it was. I think we naively thought it would be really easy to write it and pull it off, and 7 years later, when we were in our 7th workshop of the thing, we knew by then how difficult it was. So
you had that initial moment of feeling like, ooh, musical theater, embarrassing. You do. I think a lot of people sit watching a musical and just think, why are they singing? Why is somebody just bursting into song to move the narrative along?
Yes.
And there are a lot of these kind of weird conventions of musical theater that you guys have completely avoided. The characters are never singing to each other.
Yes.
The singing isn't really about the action. It's more, the play is set in 1891, and then suddenly the characters will grab these terrific cordless mics out of their jackets, which kind of points up the artifice. It's a break from the action,
yes.
And the singing is almost like an interior monologue, isn't it?
It is an interior monologue, and it's I think there are precedents for this. I think in Brecht there is often like a break between a kind of a scene and a song in a very kind of strong way. And we had like I was looking at Dancer in the Dark, which is the Lars von Trier movie with Björk, and it's a musical, but when she sings those songs, she just kind of goes into her internal fantasy world, and it kind of you don't have that thing of like, ooh, why is this person singing now? And why are they singing things that they could as well just be talking? You know, recitative is never something that I really understood. Like, why, you know, if it's just text that should be spoken, then just speak it, you know. And that's, you know, so we weren't trying to forward the plot with the songs at all. We were trying to deepen the emotional moment and allow it to have some resonance.
Right, and when the characters get up and jump on the chairs and the power chords rip, it's you know, you're plunged into the kind of timeless sea of adolescent angst. You know, I was just reminded of Wally Shawn once wrote that when he's at a musical, he said, "I feel the actors are being put through a kind of nightmarish labor. They're like animals being forced to pull heavy carts of vegetables at incredible speeds." So, I mean, not... You never feel that at your show. But the other thing that's different...
that's relief.
That's different about it. It's not just the way the music is integrated, but the subject matter, obviously. There's not a lot of musical comedy out there that is about incest, botched abortion, and masturbation.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. It's true. Our next show that we're working on has less masturbation and less teenage homoeroticism, so you can bring your kids to it. But this one has, you know, a fair amount of that. And you know, look, Stephen and I, we met because we're both Buddhist, and there's a kind of one aspect of Buddhist philosophy is that, you know, life has this enormous richness from, you know, the greatest joy to the most kind of intense, hellish experiences. And I think like any, you know, great art is going to have all of that spectrum of human emotion within it. And so Spring Awakening definitely doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of the human condition. But then there's also things that are very beautiful and joyful as well. And, you know, I think that to me, that's what was another problem in a lot of Broadway shows, was that there was an aspect of an evening's light entertainment, you know, and you'd go to dinner and then see a show, and, you know, it would kind of just go right past you. And it would all be very pleasant, maybe, and sung well, but it didn't have teeth,
right.
You know, and so that's what we certainly wanted, you know, for Spring Awakening, to push people's buttons and to make them think and feel.
Well, there's certainly dark moments in some Rodgers and Hammerstein, like in Carousel, and then Judd Fry in Oklahoma.
It's true. And Porgy and Bess, you know, certainly there are precedents for this. It's just it didn't seem to be in the forefront of what was happening.
Right. No, by and large, it's more about exclamation points and fun, I'd say, right?
Yes.
You know, I read you told an interviewer once that, in talking about meeting Stephen Sater through Buddhism, that you thought that there was some particular connection between Buddhism and musicians. Would you explain that?
Well, I think there's just the simple fact that when you chant, you know, that's our practice is, you know, consists of chanting every morning and evening. And so when you chant, you're kind of producing just one single note. And, you know, I was very self-conscious as a singer when I first started playing. You know, I was really a guitar player since I was a kid, and then I started singing when I was maybe 19, and those first few years I was incredibly self-conscious. And I think the great thing about chanting is you kind of learn how to produce one note really well, and that kind of, you know, and you can't sing a bunch of notes until you can sing one note. And so I think there is a connection there in that it's sound, it's vibration, and that's what music is as well.
To get back to the idea of the genre of the musical for a second, when Spring Awakening came out, there were a lot of people just calling it, you know, putting it in the tradition of the classic rock musical. And I actually never really saw it that way. I mean, there's something about the rock musical that is, I think, sometimes a linking of two things that don't necessarily go together, and the result is sometimes like, you know, seeing your grandmother with a hula hoop, you know.
Yes.
But I know that you studied semiotics at Brown, and so what's your take on what the rock musical is as a cultural product?
Sure.
You know?
Well, no, I mean, I have a lot to say about that. I think, you know, unfortunately, a lot of musical theater that uses rock, it's theater that gets dressed up in rock clothing, and it's ersatz. You know, it's not. It's just inauthentic by its very nature. And, you know, for me, it's just not really it's just not my taste to see that kind of thing. I know that certain people can really enjoy that kind of an entertainment, but it's just not that interesting to me. And, we're not, because it's not like we're, doing All Shook Up and we're playing Elvis songs and we're kind of, with a dance number. It's this play set in 1891, and then there are songs that are, well, some of them are rock music, but a lot of it comes from other, completely different genres. And so it's just, you try and write a good song that captures the emotional resonance of that moment, and that's all that matters, and that's what makes it authentic, not the stylization of it necessarily.
Right. Now, having had such a successful career as a singer-songwriter, what's it like to be writing these great songs and then just handing them off to some other guy to sing on stage? Is that hard?
No.
I guess we'll make up for that today when you're going to sing for us. But.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I actually have to say the first time when I remember really specifically when the first time I heard Left Behind kind of done on stage, and when we finally had costumes and lights and actors and the whole thing was together, I was, it was so great to just sit in the audience and hear it all happen, and it was really moving. It was like maybe the most profound kind of artistic moment of my life to see that all come together, because it had been such a long process and such a long journey. So I love being able to just sit in a chair and watch the show. Playing it's work.
Well, so you mentioned that you developed and workshopped this for 7 years. And during which time your actors actually went through puberty and grew up, right?
Yes.
I mean, what do you do over 7 years? I mean, what's the process?
Well, there's lots of little things. I mean, every workshop we did, the play was essentially rewritten, and maybe there were 10 of the songs that were written in '99 and 2000, but there are 19 songs in the show now, so there were 20 other songs that cycled in and out of the show over that span of time, and certainly the text changed a lot, the characters changed a lot. There's a masked man in the original Wedekind who enters the show at the end of the play, and we're using him as a narrator throughout the piece. And eventually we just had to kill the masked man because it was confusing and nobody liked him. But it took us, 5 years to figure that out, to cut him out of the play. So, and it helped the play enormously. So development is super important in the theater, and that's what's great about, like, when you make a record or you make a film. You make the record, you make the movie, it's 3 months or 6 months of your life, and then it's recorded and then it's done. The theater is so amazing because, first of all, you get to develop it for so long, and it changes in every workshop. But then when it happens, it changes every night, really. And that's, the other really beautiful thing about it is that it's alive.
Well, I'm thinking of it. You said that there were, more than a dozen extra songs that you didn't, because I can imagine some future production that's kind of like the director's cut, right?
Right.
The 5-hour Spring Awakening.
The ring cycle version. Not going to happen.
Be like, Stoppard at Lincoln Center.
Yeah. 9 hours of Spring Awakening, my worst nightmare.
Now, you're working on, you have three new projects that you're working on that, one of which I hope will land on Broadway in the next 12 months. But are you doing, maybe you can tell us about those, but sure. I'm curious also if are you drawn to this multi-year development? Will this happen with each of these pieces as well?
Yeah, for better or worse. I'm going to play a song from the Nightingale. We're doing, Stephen and I and the director James Lapine are doing a version of Hans Christian Andersen's The Nightingale. It's a fairy tale about a Chinese emperor and a little gray bird. And that we started writing in 2002, so it's hard to believe, but it's already had 4 workshops and 6 years of development. So,
and does the cast change?
Yeah, it changes every time. And it's actually a little sad because you get these great actors and they come in and they really give their heart and soul and their life to this piece, and then 3 weeks later you kind of never see them again. But it's just, it's just the way it works. So the Nightingale it's finally come together. We had a huge reconception of that piece where it was being told in a fairly, in a way, I would say almost a traditional Broadway aesthetic, and we realized that we had to kind of pull that way back and turn it into a small story that's a fairy tale, and not try and think of it as a big Broadway show. And then instantly, it became a lot better. So,
And now that has chamber music, right, rather than rock music.
it's more orchestrated. Yes, yeah. I mean, there's orchestration in Spring Awakening, but the Nightingale, it doesn't have electric guitars. Let's say.
Okay. And then there's a piece about a haunted house.
Yes, there's I'm working on a new play where I actually got to write lyrics this time, which was hard to do because I write lyrics for my own records, but it had been a while, and that part of my brain wasn't really warmed up. But so I wrote this show with the young writer Kyle Jarrow, who wrote the book, and working with this director Keith Powell, who is an actor on 30 Rock, but he's really talented young director. And yeah, it's about an 11-year-old boy, and it's set in a lighthouse in Maine in World War II, and there are ghosts who kind of sing to this boy. They operate kind of as a Greek chorus, and they articulate his inner fears. But so the ghosts sing and they never talk, and the actors talk but they never sing. So that also, it was another way of getting around that whole issue of breaking into song.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
So and then do you have any attraction for doing a theater piece set in the present? It sounds like you're very attracted to doing things
it's
in
interesting.
historical periods.
There's something about the way, certainly with Stephen's writing, where he's so kind of steeped in classic literature and everything from T.S. Eliot to Chekhov to, of course, Shakespeare, but his grasp of like kind of formal language is really amazing and very acute. And so I actually I love the way you get that sense of being in a different time, and being maybe almost out of time. Especially, with the Nightingale, it's set kind of in the mythic past. So you kind of don't know what time you're in. And I think there's something really aesthetically great about that, just being taken out of the contemporary world.
I guess it's like a metaphor for what the theater is, right?
Sure. And also, I think things can have a greater resonance when you're looking at them through a different lens. Spring Awakening, it deals with issues that are very much problems in our contemporary world, but I think you feel them more deeply because you're seeing them through this lens of 1891.
Right. And now the third piece that you're working on is about Nero, right?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to hear about that, and tell me if I assume that has political overtones with our contemporary world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of joke about Nero because it's he was incredibly debauched in lots of ways that were not something to talk about in polite company. But and we say that that Nero kind of makes Spring Awakening look like The Wedding Singer. I mean, it's really intense.
The kids are going to love it.
The kids are going to love it. Fun for the whole family. Matricide and castration of slaves, and it's great. But Nero is amazing because he really just wanted to be a singer, and he wanted to be an actor, and his mother Agrippina kind of put him in power, and so his kind of desire to be famous, really in a way it's a play about fame and the desire to be seen and heard as great. So when he became emperor, just the power just kind of completely got to him, and he didn't pay attention to what was going on in the state at all. He just wanted to go. He would enter these singing contests and travel around with these sets of slaves that he was sleeping with, and he just didn't kind of pay attention to the important stuff of leading an empire. And of course, it all he fiddled while Rome burned, and yeah, I mean that's happening now.
Yep. Well, I just looked at the clock and I realized that you're going to play 3 songs for us, 1 from Spring Awakening and 2 from Nightingale, right?
Yeah,
So
one from Nightingale, the first one from the Nightingale, okay. One from Spring Awakening, and one from Whisper House. So.
Great. Okay, so, well, thanks very much. Why don't
Cheers.
you
Thank you. So this is from the Nightingale. This is kind of the young emperor's theme. It's called The Song of the Human Heart. Party's begun, but your heart is all numb tonight. The music, it won't sing to you. The thoughts won't leave your mind. There is a sound somewhere singing. There it's in the willows. There it's where the wind blows on the river, the open, which sings of all we are. The song of the human heart. Dark that blows, that ferries you over, buries your sorrow within its song. Song of the homeless, no rest tomorrow. All they know is there is a sound somewhere singing. There it's in the willows. There it's where the wind blows on the river open. It sings of all we are. The song of the human heart. Dark that blows through walls so golden, halls of the soulless, an endless throng in motion, with no rest tomorrow. All they know is harvest done, frost on the bloom tonight, hardly a star, just half a moon tonight, harvest done, frost on the bloom tonight, hardly a star, just half a moon tonight, harvest done. Thanks. This is the beautiful and talented Holly Brooke who's singing with me. She's going to sing some. She's gonna play Ilsa now. We're going to do a song from Spring Awakening. This is called "Don't Do Sadness." What? Yeah. All right. Ready.
nothing deep inside, nothing going wild in you, you know. Slowing by the riverside, or floating high and blue, or maybe cool to be a little summer wind, like once through everything and then no way again, with the taste of dust in your mouth all day, but no need to know. Like sadness, just sail away, 'cause you know I don't do sadness, not even a little bit. Just don't need it in my life, don't want any part of it. I don't do sadness, hey, I've done my time. Looking back on it all blows my mind. I don't do sadness, so been there. Don't do sadness, just don't care.
Spring and summer, every other day. Blue wind gets so sad, blowing through the thick corn, through the bales of hay, through the open books on the grass. Spring and summer, sure, when it's autumn, the wind always wants to creep up and haunt you, whistling it's got you. With its heartache, with its sorrow, winter wind sings and it cries. Spring and summer, every other day. Blue wind gets so pained, blowing through the thick corn, through the bales of hay, through the sudden drift of the rain. Spring and summer.
So maybe I should be some kind of laundry line, hang their things on me, and I will swing them dry. You just wave in the sun through the afternoon, and then see they come to set you free beneath the rising moon. 'Cause you know I don't do sadness, not even a little bit. I just don't need it in my life, don't want any part of it. I don't do sadness, hey, I've done my time. Looking back on it all blows my mind. I don't do sadness, so been there. Don't do sadness, just don't care.
All right, so I'm going to do this little song from Whisper House. It's a world. This is a world premiere. That was a disclaimer.
What are you looking at? What do you see? Is it the truth or a strange fantasy? Whenever you're watching, changing the scene. Time is a place, this place is a song. where mothers are distant and fathers are gone. He too may be watching, he's not letting on. You can't dry your eyes or say it's alright, even though you might. She can't kiss your cheek as the days become weeks. No rewind, no repeats. Days, nights, wrongs, rights, earthbound starlight. Hey, are you listening? What is the sound of things that you lose, that you never have found? You're finding the way, turning around. Dancer with destiny, tempter of fate. The life that you lived is only a taste. Sometimes the sweetest is the time that you waste. I won't dry your eyes or say it's alright. Sometimes that's a lie, even if she kissed your cheek. Still the days become weeks. No rewind, no repeats. Steal your heart, life is hard, never easy. Believe me, there'll be no more questions, maybes or mights. Darkness descends, we've run out of light. But when you go blind, get second sight. The deeper you dive, the greater the height. So don't dry your eyes, say it's alright. Life is hard, it's a fight, even if she kissed your cheek. Still the days become weeks. No rewind, no repeats. As the days become weeks. No rewind, days, nights, wrongs, rights, earthbound starlight.
Thanks, you guys.